everybody, welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, and disembodied hands, Quindy, Justin, John, and totally distracted Kiki, who I just gave a bully stick right before the stream, so she's totally not here. No Kiki this morning. Also, sorry for the late start. I had to get the corned beef ready to go in the pot. So now the corned beef is cooking. Happy St. Patrick's Day to y'all. I would use my terrible Irish accent, but David grimaced at me this morning when I used it on him. So, hey. Look! I prepped a mouseling yesterday. I probably missed a mold line or two. Oh, noes, Quindy. Oh, noes. Quindy's a little spotty. All right, well, I'll try not to get in too much trouble. But you know how it goes. I'm going to leave the door open, so we might have a Kiki invasion later. After she's gotten bored with her bully stick and decided to become unbored with me. But yes, happy St. Patrick's Day. David works with an Irish team at his work, and they all have the day off today, being a major holiday for them. Years ago when I went to Ireland with my friend Greg, I just remember we were flying out of Ireland on St. Patrick's Day. And our cabbie was extremely hungover. And he told us that often the celebration actually starts the week of St. Patrick's Day, as in even the days before St. Patrick's Day, culminating in St. Patrick's Day. Yes. Of course, yes. Chaotic Quindy, I get it. Well, I'm chaotic good, so that's why we get along. That's definitely my alignment. The older I get, the more chaotic I get. If I run another role-playing game at any point, all the old people are going to be chaotic. All right, so I just want to take that little mold line off. So yeah, we'll probably get to this guy. But first we're going to finish Fishy's base, which is boring, but you know, we can talk about sand colors. So we don't want to go too brown. We're probably going to go with a golden color. He's pretty saturated as far as his color scheme, so we can actually go pretty yellow with the sand if we want to. A good color to start with this, actually, to build around is blonde hair, of all things. Color in nature is a color in nature, whether it's like silicone particles or hair particles. So let me figure out where I threw my blonde hair color. There it is. Good. Chaotic. Good. Yeah. According to your own lights. We're all the hero in our own stories, right? Yeah, speaking of stories, today is an exciting day. I could have published last night, the ebook. But today I'm going to go over everything. I'm going to fill out all of the forms. The book is ready. The website is ready. The website is very simple right now, but it will get better. It's just you have to... The coach who taught my class that I was taking about writing was like the imperfect plan you can execute is far better than the perfect plan you never do. And I tend to be a very perfection seeking person, so like that resonated. It's like no, we're just gonna get the website to a okay point, and then we're gonna hit publish, and then we're gonna worry about expanding the website later. You're perfectly happy to be the villain in your own story. That is you, Quindy. But he's magical. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look odd to me, Pendrake. Especially because Jason sculpted sand there. I mean, yeah, I could sculpt some water here, but I really don't want to. Like, I want to move on. So, yes, you could absolutely. If you were doing, like, this pretty cool, like, you could make him coming up out of water, although that would be hard. Clipping off the base and doing, like, resin pour or something like that if you really wanted to. The cheat that I would probably do is to cut away some of the front here and sculpt wavelets coming up instead, so he's right next to the ocean. You could do any of those things, but I do not want to do them. Yeah, sand is at the bottom of the water anyway, right? Also, like, water does come up through sand, oases in deserts. Through water, through stone, technically. Most oases, I think, are based around a stone aquifers, but I don't know. I'm not an expert there. So I'm going to start with my blonde hair, which is a golden color, but it's very pale. And so we're going to want to darken it a bit. So let me get my color over here. You guys can see let's back out. There we go. There we go. So that's a very pale, but it's a good sand color. Osirian sand obviously is another sand color. Another color we could use if we wanted it to be a bit browner, or if we wanted to just search for a good shadow, would be desert sand and desert stone. So desert sand is much browner, and this is based more on like Egyptian sand color, the Egyptian stone color. Yeah, that's kind of what I figure, Quindy. I always picture him being on the beach. Yep. So I kind of want to, I don't want to go this muted. Like, it's a really muted grayed out color, and he's so vibrant. He's so saturated that I really want to go more with the yellowy sand. Now, I could take my sand down a peg if I did want to, if I thought that was way too yellow, which it can be, depending, by just putting a drop of desert sand into that. So it won't take it too gray, but it'll mitigate that yellowness a little bit. I actually don't have desert stone in my box right now, and I probably don't because I know how to mix it. So I'm like, I don't need that in my box. So that's going to mute our sand a little bit. So what we can do here is we can do a wash on our sand if we want to. That's the easy way. If we want to keep it lighter, then we'll want to do this. Let's just do that. Let's do a wash. Why not? We don't do washes ever. So let's just do it. Let us do it. Do it. But yeah, in the meantime, are you guys all cooking for St. Patrick's Day, or are you ignoring the holiday? What are you doing? Yes, it's much darker when it's wet. Correct. But that's more thinking than I want to do right now, Pendrake. Sometimes you just don't want to think. You just want to finish the mini. Like, there are definitely, y'all know there are definitely models that I've gone harder in on the basing, but this isn't a basing show, so I try to keep it more simple most of the time. That, and I just don't like have ideas for basing a lot of the time, or I don't have the inspiration to do it. That's a big one for me. It's like I have to really like a model, and I have to. Fish taco's nice. I will be wearing green later, mostly because David reminded me to wear green. But the only green I have is either a Christmas shirt, which I'm not going to wear, or I have an olive green shirt. I do have the right color of green. I have a spring green shirt, but it's long sleeved and it's warm here today, so I'm not wearing it. David felt I should still wear it, even though it's going to be in the mid-60s, and I just gave him a look. But yeah, I always forget to wear green. But I don't forget to make corned beef. Never. This is the excuse to make corned beef every year. And this year, I'm going to make corned beef hash afterwards with the leftovers, which is exciting. Yes, exactly, Quindy. Exactly. Yeah, gotta wear green or St. Patrick will get you. Got a little bit up on my water there. I'm going to take it down. Fish tacos are awesome. They're one of my favorite summer foods. I make them in the summer more than I make them in the fall or winter. There's definitely like, I don't know that I don't think we eat seasonally per se, but there are definitely like dishes that I reach for in the winter or in the summer that I don't do in other parts of the year. Wow, Pendrake with the facts, hitting us with the hard facts today. Pendrake is very factually based today. I feel like you're like a patron saint of order today, Pendrake. You're not having any of it. You're just like Verisimilitude or bust. Did you know I have days like that? Mostly when I'm painting. Like, when I'm painting stuff for me or I'm painting a bust, then it's verisimilitude or bust. Haha. See what I did there? That's true with many, many... That's true with many, many things, Agent Marvel, is that the real history is much more interesting, but also much more complex, and so people are just kind of... people kind of nope out of it, because they don't, like, care. They want their convenient, easy-to-remember fiction more than they want the reality. And this is true of many things in life. We'll be able to change this color quite a bit with depending on the color we wash over it. And this is actually a good opportunity to talk about that. So you kind of got to watch it when you do a wash, because when you're working with a color that's this pale, when you put that wash over the top, it's going to color this so much. And if you choose the wrong wash, you could get very orangish or reddish or a color that you really don't want. So it's important to think about kind of how the colors will overlay each other. You can get an idea of this by actually mixing the two together a little bit. It won't be exactly the same, but it'll be very close. The result you get when mixing colors is similar, or has a lot in common with the result you get in putting colors over the top of each other. It's not quite the same, but it's close. It's like when you do a black wash over yellow, you will see it go greenish. But if you mix black and yellow, you'll see it go vibrant green. So you don't get exactly the same result, but it'll tell you that, oh, if I put this black over this yellow, it's going to go greenish. So when you're doing this sort of thing, when you choose that shading color, that wash color, you really have to kind of keep in mind what you're aiming for with your sand color or your light color. This holiday doesn't bug me because I know that actually a lot of Irish people really love it, and it's like a celebration holiday for them. It's like our 4th of July almost. So knowing that, it's not like it was just a made up holiday necessarily. I guess all holidays are kind of made up, but you know what I mean? It's not Valentine's Day. It doesn't exist only to be commercial. St. Patrick's Day does not exist only to sell corned beef, you know? Yeah, it's a huge celebration in Ireland. Yeah, I feel like 4th of July is a pretty good analogy, because it's like you get the day off, you get to cook and like drink and hang out with family and friends. There are parties. Everybody's hungover the next day, that kind of thing. Except me, I don't drink anymore, so I don't know. We have a stout. Maybe I'll ask David if we can open one of our special stouts. Because I do have a few beers. I do drink a beer every once in a while, or drink part of a beer. And we have some very special stouts that are like cellared. We have like a bourbon barrel Old Rasputin for those of you who know North Coast Brewing. So maybe I'll ask David if we can open that one tonight to sell booze. Oh, you think this looks good for your local beach stand? Well, that's good, Miss Nim. You're being in Florida, you would know. So blonde hair, this is for about 4 drops of blonde hair with 1 drop of desert sand. So the desert sand just gives it a little less yellowy, a little more realism. It's less golden, but still pretty good. It was a pretty good match for some of the sand in Hawaii too, I think. Oh, you do one in February. Yeah, I'm doing one today. I got delayed starting because I was prepping it. I'm doing a new recipe for it this year. In the past, I've just pretty much put it into a big puddle of Guinness and just like boiled it in the slow cooker, essentially. Essentially is what it comes down to, right? Simmered it. But this year I read a recipe for braising it. and doing a rub on the top and keeping the top dry and actually like browning it so that it will be crispy. So the fat pat will be crispy. So that sounded really good to me. So I decided I would try it this year. I have gone to Ireland. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's a little high calorie for me, so I tend to avoid it a little bit in R for that reason. But as a holiday, as a cheat day, I can do it. Genuine beach sand for basing text. So you could base fishy, extremely realistic. Kinda. I mean, I'm used to brisket being smoked, so it's not, it has no water. Brisket, traditional brisket for me has no water. Like coming from Texas, like having not really like encountered good brisket until Texas, like I'm so used to brisket being cooked in a dry fashion. I don't think it would ever have occurred to me to cook brisket, like traditional brisket, that way. So this is a braise instead of a, like a traditional brisket. I would probably do oven or smoker, depending on if you have a smoker. I would start pulling my putty away from the bottom here too. Oh yeah, I guess I kind of remember that. My ex always did the brisket. But yeah, then if that is true, then, which I just don't remember because it's been a while. Then yes, kind of like that. We'll see. Like they don't want you. They pretty much in the recipe they're like it should crisp up just from the heat in the crock pot. But if it doesn't, then you can put it under the broiler just real quick if you really want it crispy on the top. I'm just doing it straight to their recipe, and I'm just gonna see how it goes, and if I really like it, which I don't know how I wouldn't. The spices are the spice packet that comes with it, plus fresh ground pepper and garlic paste, and sugar. So it should be really tasty. The sugar helps it to brown, presumably. Oh, Zach used to do it, like Zach would actually be out there like in the winter. I had a picture of him at one point in his coat, dressed fully up in winter garb, smoking a brisket. And he was doing it for hours. Like, so yeah. I don't think he ever did it in an hour or two. We always did the long haul. It was always the long haul. He'd prep it around lunch and be ready at dinner. So yeah, but yeah, I never made it because the smoker was just like off-putting for me, so I just didn't do it. It was not my thing. All right, let's figure out now this is a hard one. If you use anything that's got red in it, it's going to go orange. So ruddy leather is out. Again, if you use anything with orangey, like really orangey, like harvest brown, it's out. Many skin colors or like dark skin colors are going to be out. Russet brown may work, but you're going to need to lighten it. NMM Gold Shadow may actually be what we want. Yeah. Yeah, the rest was all cooking time, I'm sure. I'm letting this dry while I figure out. I was thinking this or Shield Brown. So the more yellowy browns, if you guys recall my PDF that I did for the Patreon a while ago. Late last year or earlier this year. So these are very close. You can see in shade, these are very close. They're a medium dark. This is Shield Brown. So this one's a little grayer and more muted, and this one's a little more yellow. So the danger with NMM Gold Shadow is it's going to take everything too yellow. So I think I'm going to put that back. I think I'm going to go with my original gut instinct, which is Shield Brown. And I'm going to mix it with a little bit of my base color, just like I advised, to see how it's going to shift when I put it over the top. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I'm interested in it. It's good to know in our that that's how the pros do it as far as brisket, as far as oven finishing. Except I'm never smoking my corned beef, obviously. So, but yeah, that's cool. We'll see how it goes. So I'm going to do 1 drop of this, and I'm going to pop some of that extra in. So I've got that, and we'll get my mixing brush. I'm going to put a little bit of this in here, and we're going to see. Yeah, that's a pretty good neutral brown, light golden brown color. I think that's a really good sand undertone, actually. Pop a thing of water in that. Now, the darker, the more different you go, depending on what you want here. So the more different you go between your colors, between your wash color and your main color, the more, the less kind of just less natural, the more like stand out, stick out, it's going to look. Like, it'll give you a shadow. If you go too dark with a really light color, it'll give you a shadow, but it won't look right. Like, it'll look like it won't look like a natural shadow, especially with thin relief like this. And I'm going to put another coat over this because I can see some gray. You guys can see some gray there too. I want, if you're going to do a wash, really do a nice solid coat underneath. So really with washes, starting lighter is good. It gives you the freedom to use something in the middle or middle dark, usually mid dark, for your wash. If I tried to use this color here that has some of the base coat mixed into it, it probably wouldn't be quite dark enough. We'd probably do actually want shield brown because this isn't going to give us much contrast, especially with very, when you've got not very much relief, like this is just sand, right? So it doesn't have a lot of deep crevices. So you know that any wash you put over the top is going to be kind of subtle anyway. Also remember that your wash always dries lighter than it looks. And so if you put this on, it dries lighter. It's not going to give you very much contrast at all to bring out detail. So you don't want to go too dark, but you don't want to go too light either. But yeah, I'm excited for the corned beef. I'm not gonna do salt potatoes. I'm gonna do just a baked potato. I've been kind of craving a baked potato lately, and it's on diet, so I'm like, I'll just do a baked potato tonight with butter and sour cream. Oh, which means I have to put sour cream on my list, my grocery list, or I'll be done. I'll be sad. We won't have enough. And then the cabbage I'm still like on the fence about. Last time I baked it and it actually turned out well. I never boil it. It's just too bland that way. I really love cabbage. David does not, so the challenge is always finding a cabbage recipe that will make it palatable to him. When I baked it, he actually thought it was okay. But I really want to find a home run cabbage thing for David. Unfortunately, most of the home run cabbage things would probably involve making it Chinese style, which is just not in keeping with the Irish nature of this holiday. There are a couple of really good sauteed cabbage recipes in Chinese cooking. But it's out of ethnicity, and David actually is persnickety about that. No, the thing is, Big Tempo, we do roasted Brussels sprouts every third day. We do them a lot, especially in winter when they're in season. We do a lot because we love roasted Brussels sprouts and we love them in the air fryer. And it's one of my favorite vegetables. Probably is my favorite vegetable, hand down. Yeah. And so, yeah, cooked in the meat juices, huh? You like cooking in the pan? Well, this one, since I'm doing it with so little liquid, maybe this one is the one to do in those juices. There is some vinegar in the mix that the corned beef is cooking in. And there is a little bit of sugar, and then there's spices. So maybe I can do that. That's actually an interesting idea. Because I had shied away from it in the past just because I've always not liked the cabbage that has done in the crock pot with the meat. But then I always use a lot of fluid. And so this year it's going to be, the fluid is going to be a lot less and it's going to be more flavorful. So there we go. That's a nice solid base coat. But yeah, and I'm gonna I'll probably use the roasted or use the air fryer to do some roasted carrots as well, because I like roasted carrots. So it'll be cabbage, carrots, half a baked potato each, and corned beef. Browning your potatoes and cabbage. Yeah, yeah. That's a good mix. It's a good mix. But we also have like browned potatoes like every Sunday, so we do fancy breakfast every Sunday. Yeah, I've been waiting to try this carrot air fryer recipe though for a long time, and so this is an excuse. Though maybe I'll mix up the seasoning and mimic the seasoning that I did for the meat to get that kind of effect. I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Agent Marvel. It just kind of like overcooks them. And often, I don't mind overcooked whatever, but like sometimes I like my vegetables a little mushy, but not cabbage and not yeah, right. I've always, in the past, when friends have done the carrots and the cabbage in the pot with the meat, it's just been too soggy and flavorless and overcooked, and I have not liked that. So I would rather, yeah, I would rather kind of go my own way on that one, I think. Everybody's different, everybody's got an opinion. It's certainly easier to do a one pot meal for sure, and I get why people do it. Yeah, I just don't know what that time frame is in Ara because I've never done it. When you've experimented more. I'm not a big slow cooker person though. That's the thing is, I'm far more into, like my slow cooker is my Instant Pot. Because I decided I would rather have a pressure cooker than a slow cooker. And for the most part, I use the pressure cooker far more than the slow cooker. The slow cooker I whip out for very, like, things like this. Special occasion foods that specifically need to be done in a slow cooker. And I'm going to shake up remember, especially when you're getting toward the bottom of the bottle, which I am with this brush-on sealer, shake it up like crazy. Yeah, Inara definitely sounds like a pro on the slow cooker side. I'm not. Yes, correct, Pendrake, and that's what people do with a lot of people do with the leftovers. Although you also can make corned beef hash, which I haven't done before, but I have now made. I've made prime rib hash, and so now I am certain that I can make a good corned beef hash. So the leftover corned beef, I got the smallest corned beef I could, but the leftovers will be going into hash for sure. We'll have breakfast for supper and do corned beef hash with an egg over the top and whatever vegetable we feel like. Yes, yeah. They do a whole bunch of things with beef briskets, don't they? Yeah, soup pot. Yeah, I guess you could use a Dutch oven too. Hey, Bill, we're talking about food. We're talking about St. Patrick's Day food, ways to cook corned beef, and what corned beef is good for. I'm doing well. I'm always doing well when I've got the energy to cook and I'm excited about what I'm cooking, and I am. So today's good. Today's a good day. Also, my book is almost out, so that I can't wait for that to be done. Then I can refocus on actually writing, which is the fun part, folks. Couldn't have leftover corned beef. Your puppy would eat it for every meal. Yep. Yeah, I started my corned beef earlier. Nope. Corning is the pickling. It's I don't think it comes from the same root. I'm not sure why corn got called corn instead of maize. I don't remember. Do you guys remember? I'm sure somebody can look up that word origin for me. So I'm going to do a 4 and 2. This is what I've been doing with my washes lately is instead of 3 and 3, I'm going 4 and 2 with 4 drops of the brush-on sealer and 2 drops of water with 1 big drop of the paint. Ah, okay, that makes sense. So since the pickling spices are small pieces, small seeds, that makes sense. Thank you, Inara. Inara, you are full of knowledge today. Pendrake is our god of realism, and you are our goddess of knowledge today. Yeah, like peppercorns. Right. Okay, cool. Now I get it. Thanks. And Turgeon with the Wikipedia entry. Other small hard substance. Oh, okay. I see. Right, but there are other corns. Got it. All right, cool. I like it when we can learn weird things on this stream. Okay, so here we are. And I've got more or less solid. You can see, still see a tiny bit of gray through, but I'm not really concerned. In the US, we only have streaky bacon, right? All right, so my wash might be actually need a little more paint. Watch your wash when it comes off the side of your palette. You can see how it's very, very pale, which is good because it's not going to color our base coat very much, but it may not be very dark either. So that could be fine, because if it just manages to outline the texture, I'm fine, because I can do a side brush over the top and bring it up toward an off-white, and that'll usually give you enough contrast. I didn't know you had an English degree in art. That's cool. My mom thought I should. Oh yeah, so that's good. You can kind of tell the minute you start putting it over, and just remember it's going to go lighter when it dries. But that looks that's pretty good. Oh, I'm moving. My camera's not fixed. There we go. Better. And I'm going to go take it a little slow here, just because I want to be more precise with the wash. Also, since it's on a textured surface, you don't have to pay as much attention to, like, always working with keeping a wet edge, because the texture is gonna disguise anything. I almost went to, my mom she wanted to know why, when I was a kid, she asked me why I wouldn't go to English to get an English degree in college, and I told her I didn't want to teach. Ha ha. Although that's fair, because I still wouldn't want to teach in a school setting, I think. I don't think it would be right for my temperament. That's not me. I can do, like, short classes, but having to do it as a job, I think I would, like, have rebelled long ago. So I think I was right about myself on that level. I do like to teach, but it's definitely, like, in a specific way, specific time. If Inara can afford a Lamborghini, I want to be her friend. And that is pretty funny, though. That's a good license plate. I bet somebody's got it. Although I imagine that license plate more on some sort of practical Subaru than I do on a Lamborghini. Yeah, the bureaucracy would. I know that. I mean, I know that so well in our, like, my dad always felt that it was a downside of me that I couldn't deal with, like, I didn't want to deal with the bureaucracy. I learned that working at Equifax. If you want bureaucracy, try a credit bureau. I mean, come on, it's in the name. Yeah, I call it credit bureaucracy. But at any point, and that's why Reaper was a perfect fit for me, because, and Dad was, like, all frustrated. He's like, you would choose a company that would be just not a serious company or whatever. I don't remember what he exactly said, but, you know, something along those lines. And it's like, yeah, but this is what suits me, right? This is what I'm not going to quit. This is the job. And here I am almost at 20 years. I did use a wash, Miss Imp. You missed it. You missed the wash. So here it is. It's sitting nicely. We're going to wait for it to dry. And we're going to, like, just talk about stuff. But I did give several tips while I was doing it. This is going to dry a little lighter, remember, which is what we want. Then we're going to go back over it with our base coat. And we're going to go over and bring it up. You probably with side brushing technique, not dry brushing. Because since the model itself is so precise, and I don't want to hit it with a dry brush, that's when I go to side brushing instead. The way I teach is more like hanging out. And that's what I'm comfortable with, Deborah. I use washes on occasion, just not very much. Not very much. But I can put my my black rim around the outside of the base while I'm waiting for this to wash. Yep, washed. Yeah, I like a more relaxed teaching environment. I like to more relate to my students, and I really do believe the adage that you learn as much from your students as you teach them. And so I find that a more casual learning environment makes that more likely. I don't want to be the person up on the pedestal in the front of the room. I want to be the person kind of like brainstorming with the students and like talking to them and trying to address their individual issues that they're having. Like, that's what I want. That's my happy place. I'm gonna get some of I'm using Besmara black today just because it's right here on my table. Orange gear, Quindy would know, but I don't. Since we paint it one day out of every 6 days that we stream. And the stream's usually about an hour and a half, so I don't know, Quindy. I don't know how many shows we have with Fishy. Do you? She's in and out today. She might not be able to answer, but let me think. Let me just kind of reconstruct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We spent a lot of time on the copper. 10, 11, 12, 13. I'm going to say about, let's just go to 14 days. Yeah, it's just going to dry matte. It's not going to stay gloss. Or it'll go satin, but then we'll put some texture over the top. And my guess is 14. Which then at an hour and a half means that about 21 hours. Which sounds about right. 20 hours, 20-ish hours for a model that's about a 72 millimeter, where I'm doing it, decently. Not to the top, but decently is about right. So we've been painting him since the beginning of... That's a lot. Maybe it's more shows than I thought. Although we missed some time, too, with days off and holidays and all the rest. So maybe it was more. We'll find out. But yeah, I would say that when I'm painting about like a 72 millimeter model, if I'm doing it to a decent display standard, as Fishy is, that's probably going to take me about 20 hours. Because it takes time. It takes time. Now, of course, on this show, if it ends up being more shows than that, but we get interrupted a lot, right? We get interrupted by people asking questions and things. So if you count that in, I'm betting he comes in somewhere around 20 hours. That's my guess. Now, if I'm going to go competition level, then it's going to go higher, right? But like Fishy and like my Anubis that I'm just painting for myself, this guy, like these are about the same height, although Anubis has that big feather cape that I had to spend. The feather cape was at least 4 hours, I think, by itself. Yeah, we have bunny trails for sure. But yeah, I would say that Anubis is also around a 20 hour. Maybe a little bit more, but no, I think my gut says 20 to 24 tops, and he's still going because he's got that big scythe, whereas Fishy's weapon was a lot simpler. But like the rest of Anubis, except for the basing, is pretty set at this point. So I just have to finish the other side of the scythe and the basing. Scythe. So we got a lot of the scythe, this side of the scythe done on my stream. I'll probably work on the other side of the scythe. We'll do the metallics, the shaded metallics, on Saturday, tomorrow. I'll be streaming on my channel at 3:30 p.m. USA Central Time, twitch.tv/paintingbig. Oh, I don't know, Miss Dim. Most of my competition models, Anubis, I don't know. Like, I feel like there are parts of him that took very long, like the cloak. Took a long time, Pendrake, but things like some of the cloth was a lot of blending but it was like only a few hours tops. So I kind of feel like I still have some work to do on the metallics on other parts of him too, on his neck, his cowl. So I'll have to do that when I'm working on the other metallics. But I would say maybe like 26, 28. That's my guess. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I lost almost a whole stream, correct. I always tell myself to like, write down when I paint. And then I forget. But yeah, I'm gonna say and maybe Anubis when he finishes up will be about 30 because of the big weapon. I think you're right, Pendrake. But a competition level piece typically takes me at least 40 hours. So my guess on Borka took a lot of time. The thing is that Borka took a lot of prep work. There was sculpting that I had to do to fill in parts of that fur, which had gotten essentially pitting, like bubbles and stuff. There were a lot of bubbles and things that I had to fill on Borka. So that alone probably took 4 to 6 hours just sculpting. And then the painting of him was fast because he's very simple, right? And here, let me go fetch him. Did Quinny get back to us on how many shows it was? Oh, it's 19 shows. Wow. Okay. Yeah, but we also get distracted. I'm gonna say fishy. I'm gonna call it we lose like 15 minutes. Well, we're gonna call it maybe 24, 25 hours. What do you think? Let me grab Borka. All right, so this was my Privateer Press Grandmaster. And he's simpler, though, than most models, right? He's big. But if you really look at him, you've got mostly metal skin and the fur, right? So, yeah, I'd say about 25 hours. Which makes sense, because, yeah, he is big. But, so, at least the head and the face and everything was at least 4 nights. This is at least 8 hours. Plus 4 hours prep work would be about 12. This took multiples, like 6, I want to say. We're up to 18. The fur was painful. It took me several nights to do it. I'd want to say 4, 8, maybe 26. The leather was 2 days. I'm going to say 32-ish. I had to redo these. I'm going to say Borka came in around 40, maybe just a little bit. Oh, and I had to paint the top of the head. I had to redo these. Yeah. I'm going to say he maybe was just short of 40. But 40 is like minimum for a competition piece. Doing a 28 millimeter model to my top level is going to be like around, I would say I'm a little faster now than I used to be, but I'm going to say between 35 and 40 hours usually, unless it's a really simple piece. And this guy I'm going to say is about the same because he doesn't have a back, right? So you only have to paint the front of the model for the most part. And he's very simple. Like you're going to be working on fur, metal, and skin. I did a lot of the metal I did the start of the metal on one of my streams on my Twitch channel, which I think I did save as a VOD on my YouTube. When I tried to do a dragon mistimp, it was at 120 when I stopped, and it broke, so I just lost heart and I stopped. But it was at 120 and not done yet. So it really depends. It really depends. And what also depends is like, how early are you in your career? Because at the beginning of your career, when you're first starting out, it's going to take longer. How much basing are you building out? Are you doing a big display base? That's going to add at least another third. Take the time that you used to paint and add another third, 1.3 at least, or 1.4. If you're doing a lot of sculpting on the base, it can take even longer to paint than the miniature, or longer to sculpt and paint than the miniature. If you have multiple figures, that's going to pump it up. What's your technique? If you do a lot of wet blend and a lot of block, and then you do a lot of like glazing to pull it all together, like then you can do it faster. Do you need a lot of like smooth blends or do you need textures? Textures are faster. So yeah, can you spend 150 if it's a big model, especially? Yes, I was, like I said, a dragon, easily 120 hours. I chopped out the wing membranes and resculpted the wing membranes to be translucent, out of like transparent Sculpey tissue, and I, all that. So depending on all the crazy that you're doing, it can go to 150. If you're doing something like David's resin pour base for his mermaid, he did that thing 3 or 4 times before he got it right. So yeah, and freehand adds an NMM. NMM adds a ton of time. Like, I think I have it on the Logan Grimnar that I did for commission, the Forge World piece. That went to 65 or 70 hours, I think. It had a huge base. It had a ton of NMM. Like, at least 25 hours of that model was NMM, guys. So if you have a lot of complicated NMM, that can add a lot of time. But my minimum, like my first ever Golden Demon winner, was 40 hours almost flat. Like, and that's where I got my baseline. I'm like, all right, for me to paint a Golden Demon winning model took 40 hours, right? And that's a 28mm model, Chaos Space Marine, a fair amount of freehand because I freehanded all the armor. You have to just like throw out the one and then do it again. Essentially, Pendrake, he was messing with different colors, and he was also creating a texture for the top of the waves. And actually, as he did subsequent pours, the piece he was using for texture actually wore down a little bit, and it made it better for the purpose. So you can see this on his blog. I think he did a whole blog thing on the mermaid base, and it was it's Light Miniatures, LIGHT miniatures.com. But it's really, so every time he did it, he got a little closer to the color he wanted or the texture he wanted, until finally when he did like his third, or I think it was the third pour. Yeah, you keep making new ones until you get it right. Exactly. That's what he did. He just had to toss out the old one. Yeah, thank you, Quindy. David appreciates it. But yeah, so I consider that's an example of how you can lose time on a competition piece. You try something, same thing with your sculpting a base, and then you end up breaking it because you're just like, this is not what I want, right? I'm going to do it again. That's the kind of thing that you get into loops on competition painting. Also, when you just decide to repaint part of the model because it's not working. If you're doing a banner's freehand, gonna totally suck up a ton of time. They look great, but so yeah. So I feel like all of that plays into doing a high-level competition piece. Obviously, if you're competing at your local game store, you're not going to be doing, whoa, fishy, your putty is very ugly. Obviously, if you're competing at a local game store, you won't need to do that much work. Unless, of course, you've never competed before, and then maybe you do end up doing that much work for your local game store to win that competition. And that's what I mean. It's like, how long have you been painting? How long have you specifically been painting at a competition level? Because it is a different game. Mentally and time-wise and technique-wise. Because it's so persnickety. And if you're a perfectionist like me, you enjoy the challenge. But there are even times that my perfectionism will nope out and go, nope, too much work these days. So perhaps I've lost my competition is not one of my big drives. Like, I enjoy competing, but my pleasure in a competition is more in producing something that I really like. That's what gives me more happiness about competing. Like, it's an excuse for me to put a really high-level paint job on a model I really like. And that, I would say that is my motivation, whereas for David's much more competition geared. Like, he wants to win. And with me, I'm like, hey, isn't my piece cool? Oh, I didn't win. That's fine. But all I want is to show my piece to people and say, isn't it cool? I love it. Like, that's me. So your motivation for doing competition also will matter, right? If you really want to win, you're going to pop that. If you feel that you have to pop that 150 or 200 hours into a piece to make it really competitive, you're going to do it. Oh, he knows. Like, that was his Crystal Brush entry, and then he after Crystal Brush, he got a lot more feedback from people, from fellow competitors, and he changed a few things, and then he won Best in Show with it at Kubla here. But thanks, Turgeon, I'll tell him. Oh, yeah, yeah. Some models are very, and not only, I mean, the Bloodthirster is huge. 2, there are huge wings. 3, you're painting all those little braids and details. Like, anything you get from Forge World is going to be just ridiculous, really, these days. Because it's just there's so much detail on all the GW models, and that takes time. That's why Logan Grimnar took me so long. Like, I was not expecting to spend like 65 hours on that piece. I was not expecting to spend like 25 of it on NMM. So by the time we're done with this, we'll have our wash be all dry, and I can do the top. But yeah, what it comes down to is, as you paint, as you get better, and especially, I've got to say, one thing that is really good about painting for competition is that your speed with simpler paint jobs tends to improve. Because you're concentrating on technique and on perfecting your technique. And as you do that, you are necessarily practicing your technique. And as you practice your technique, you get faster and faster with it. So before, it would have taken me 12 to 15 hours to do a competition or a display model level model for Reaper, for example, for the Reaper gallery. Nowadays, it's more like 8 to 12, depending on the simplicity of the model. And if I really push myself, I mean, on this stream, everything slows down. So you tend to see me spend that 12 to 15 because that's just the way it rolls out, because I'm stopping painting right now to talk to you, right? But when I'm focused, I can paint a pretty darn good mini in 8 hours at this point. So that's one thing that happens, is you just get better and better at producing what to you is a basic paint job, and what everybody else is like, oh my gosh, that's a really nice paint job, right? You just do. But it also tends to wreck you for army painting. unless you can do that mental game where you can partition yourself to like the techniques you use for army versus the techniques you use for everything else. Like David, he's both of us are broken as far as any army painting. Like when he paints a unit, he's going to do it to a decent standard, which is going to take him more time than, so much time that he's not going to be able to do a real army. Plus he'd get bored. He acknowledges this. He's never going to paint an army because he would get totally bored with it. I pointed out that he's kind of painting a chaos army because he keeps liking all these chaos models, and he keeps painting them for competitions or for fun, and eventually he's going to have something he can call an army. Yeah, armies are just repetitive, right? So it's like, it can be paint therapy. Like if you just want to sit and paint and watch a show or whatever, painting an army could be paint therapy. Like, especially if you play. Like, if I was playing Zachariah, I'd be more motivated to paint armies. Like, if I found a group around here now with Warhammer Fantasy coming back, if I found a group around here that I liked and I really would enjoy playing with, then I would be tempted. Because I could just paint an hour and a half in the evening and try to do it real simple, and get something basic on the board, right? I think I could do that. But I don't really have the urge to paint an army to a really high level these days. All right. I'll make sure we're not putting black down on stuff, I think. So what I tend to do with this, by the way, if you're doing this kind of base thing, I tend to use my palette, and I just rest the model off the side of the palette so that the black base is suspended, and I just let it dry that way. Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, that makes sense for D&D. And it's the same kind of motivation, right? You're playing with them, and you're excited about playing with them, and so you have the motivation to do it, right? Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested. The thing about them putting out Warhammer Fantasy again if they're going to do it as an entirely new product and not just like port over some of the Age of Sigmar models into it, is that we're going to get entirely new sculpts for the classic armies, which is so cool because, yeah, me being like, that was my first GW game and I still have a nostalgia bit for it. So if they resculpt like a couple of the armies that I really like, I'm going to be like, oh, it's going to be hard. I don't know, Doug. That's a question that I don't know just because I'm not in-house anymore since I'm working remote. I would know it if I was in the Monday morning meetings, but I'm not anymore. Thank God. And if John or Justin are listening at this point, they're going to laugh when I hear me say that. But the thing is, Doug, that when you're casting this stuff, every time you have to recast your stock, like when they run out of X model that was an early Bones USA model, they're almost certainly going to just use the new mix because there's no reason, everything is going to the new mix, right? So as long as the new mix works with the old mold, which I don't see why it wouldn't, then your new copy of some of the earlier Bones USA has a chance to be made with that, just because they'll run out of stock and have to recast it. Maybe, Bill. I can imagine them keeping some stuff like the Green Knight, which was just a good sculpt. Like, there are some Warhammer Fantasy things that are just good, solid sculpts, and I can see them using, you know, especially some of the later army stuff. But I also, like, anticipate that they'll take this opportunity to upgrade the style of the game. Because, I mean, they sell... Age of Sigmar models are amazing. And if they put out too much of the old crap, I mean, it's just not going to sell. People are going to be like, oh yeah, I've got that model. I got it 20 years ago, right? So it's an opportunity for them to redo the look of each of the armies and really upscale the technology and the sculpts. And so I think they'd be really dumb not to do it. Cool, Zachariah. New Bretonians. TK. Which TK? Ah, cool. Yeah, and the Skaven, right? They kept some of their armies. Like the Skaven for Age of Sigmar are going to be portable, right? You're going to port those over to Warhammer Fantasy probably. Oh, Tomb Kings. Ooh, Tomb Kings. Oh. The only thing that keeps me from like doing a Tomb Kings army with my rampant Egypt love is that there's just too many bandages. Too many bones and bandages. But New Bretonians. But my old army was Wood Elves. So I would be waiting for like... I would expect them to port over the Ariel model from Age of Sigmar because it's good. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It'll be exciting. It'll be exciting and expensive, and I'll have to like figure it out. David does not like fantasy, but I told him I like movement trays and I cannot lie, and he's just like, ugh. The thing I hate about those big skirmish battle games, though, is that you just spend half the game just moving figures, and it's so annoying. It's like, I want to play the game. I don't want to spend half the game moving figures. Because moving big units is a pain in the butt. But yeah, Age of Sigmar is fancy. It's just, right. They got a chance to do the aesthetic, redo the aesthetic of some of the classic armies and make it in a whole new world and put out new armies. So, but yeah, I look forward to seeing what they'll do. And I mean, the Lizardmen are really good in Age of Sigmar. Like, they're beautiful models, and they haven't changed much from fantasy. So, yeah. Yes, Zachariah, that's it on the nose. Like, I can't stand, like, I just can't do that whole hundreds of models move every turn until they all die. You know, it takes hours. It's like adds an hour to the game, and it's an hour of not fun. Yeah, I like movement trays, dang it. I cannot lie. All right, here we are. We have, and it's dried really nicely, actually, if you look at it. I like that color. It's good. It's harmonizing with the model. Since it's nice and golden, it's really warming up. Like, it adds some warmth. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so let us... Hey, and I've got a big block to use again for a big model. All right, let's do our highlighting. Right, exactly. Movement trace for rounds, yep. Like playing with action figures. Yeah, if you play the armies that just have a few big things, then you don't have to worry about it, right? But it's like I don't like those armies. So I like the Horde armies. That's the problem. I like orcs. Actually, I have an Eldar. I have part of an Eldar army, so I can't say I just like orcs. All right, I'm going to remix some of my base coat here. 4 drops of the blonde hair plus 1 drop of desert sand. And we'll apply that as a highlight. I do miss gaming, but I miniatures gaming, but I don't know how I'd fit it into my current lifestyle. I'd have to give up something else. I'd have to give up the Saturday stream and go play Warhammer or something. And I'm not sure I want to do that. So I'm definitely at the point where I am my time is like scheduled, and the day that isn't scheduled is Sunday, and I got to keep it that way for my sanity. All right. Well, even Sunday has schedules sometimes if I have right club. Yeah. You used to think you liked Skaven, right? All right, I'm not going to thin this, actually. It's got a little bit of water in it from the previous mix. I'm just going to mix it up. And I'm going to get a piece of card out to dry brush on. Or wet brush on. Do my little tree here. Okay. There's just too many rats is the problem with Skaven. There's too many. And that's the point, but I love their little characters, but I'm just like, you're likely right. I would try them and just be like, oh noes. All right, so we can use a flat for this if you have an appropriate flat. I don't know that I have a flat that's neat enough right now. Most of my terrain flats right now look like this, and so with that spread of bristles, they're just not going to be good for this. I'm going to maybe... Where's my miniature? Looking for my fatter brushes here, but I may have moved one into the other room. Oh, there we go. Nope, that's... Yeah, that is... I think, yeah, this is a miniature series brush. So you can use something short and thick like that, or you can use something longer. I think I'm going to try this. Because I don't care about this brush because I don't use it very much. This is a miniature series Winsor & Newton. It's very wedge shaped. I want to get paint off the brush, but I still want some paint on the brush, and then I'm going to use the side of the brush and just put it over the top. Let me get closer. Yeah, there's some cool leaders in the Skaven army. It's just painting all those endless swarms of rats. So I'm just going to go and rub the brush at an angle over the side of the brush over the surface. And as the paint gets more off of it, you can go more toward a traditional dry brush. Although I'm never going to let it get truly dry. I'm always preserving my brush. So I'm just picking up some of that texture. The other thing you can do is just flat out stipple and try to paint over very quickly the top of the texture you've got. So you can just try to stipple a bit. Got a little bit, missed a little bit. There we go. So around the edges where there's not much texture, you can stipple. Or you can just stipple and try to hit a lot of it. I do a combo. If your brush is too wet, just like with dry brushing, it will kind of smear across the whole surface, so just be careful. Although if you do get smears, it's not like you can't take your wash and reapply it in a spot manner. Almost a dry brush. Almost. I don't like true dry brushing Twistedoma. I feel it's not controlled enough, and it wrecks brushes, and I don't like either of those things. So I tend to do like a side brush. This is how I do a lot of like texture. I'll do traditional dry brushing on big terrain pieces, but that's the only time I do traditional dry brushing. Also, I need a line between the sand and the fishy. So I'll go over the top like a traditional dry brush toward the end, like of each brushful where it's gotten drier. But I will rinse it out, and I won't let the paint dry in the bristles as much as you would with a traditional dry brush. It's just a lot more controlled application. It's the same kind of technique because you're removing a lot of the paint from the bristles, and you are keeping it thicker, and you are going over the surface, and you're trying not to let the paint go down into the cracks, but you're not being quite as haphazard or fast. You're still fast, but you're not like that, right? You're not being crazy until the paint starts to get more tacky on your brush, and then you can do some traditional like so. But I only do a few strokes of that, and then I go back because I really don't want too much. I just want to bring out a little texture, and then I'm going to do a highlight for this. And I'll probably, in a bow to pendrake, I will darken down the sand close to the water. I'll do a little bit of wash, I think. Ah, that one went too far. But yeah, side brushing is more of a damp brush technique. It's not dry. I never want the paint to dry in a brush, not ever. All right, I'm going to grab more of my wash here, and I'm going to darken down the area next to fishy. Again, make it a little darker. So we're just applying a spot wash there then to take that down a bit. It's edge highlighting when using the side of the brush on an edge. I think it's a little bit weirder to call it edging when you're painting texture on a flat surface. But I bet a lot of people call it that. The thing to remember about mini painting terminology is it's different everywhere you go. We have no standard knowledge base that, standardizes terminology. Many painters have tried to do that over the years because they get frustrated with the differences in terminology from area to area. But it's just, every painter is going to kind of have their own name for a thing, and either it catches on or it doesn't. And maybe it only catches on in some particular community and it doesn't catch on elsewhere, right? It's like when the French were calling glazing juicing. Maybe they still do. And I can always introduce a little, if I feel like I covered up some of my texture, I can always introduce little bits of wash here and there. Yeah, many have tried to standardize the language of the hobby. So your best weapon when faced with that is the phrase, "Can you explain what you mean?" All right, let's get a highlight on, and we're gonna be much more precise with the way that we put our highlight on the sand. I like that so far. Looks good. All right. Mixing brush, where are you? I am not. David is going to enter Golden Demon. The puppy is not quite old enough yet. She's still too bitey to have a dog sitter for her. And so I have to stay home this time, Doug. I was planning to go, But David will be going without me. So you'll see his entries. He's got a Privateer Pest Grandmaster entry. He's got a Age of Sigmar unit and a 40k unit. He did units this time. And then he also has what's the company that does the really nice superhero figures? Like Marvel, like Iron Man and stuff. Like, I think they're part of a game. But that company didn't have a competition last year when we went, and this year they are having a competition again, so David is entering that. He's got Iron Man painted up. No, not Zombicide. It's the actual, like, licensed Marvel miniatures game. Not HeroClix, no. Maybe Atomic Mass? Atomic Mass Games, yeah. Or maybe it is DC. I don't know. It's whatever, but you get the idea. Maybe it's Atomic Mass. That sounds right. Where they've got really nice quality figures. Because David is a mini snob and he wants a really good sculpt and a good cast. But yeah. He did a really cool backdrop for the piece too. Really cool base. Yes, Marvel Crisis Protocol. That sounds right. Yep. Oh, okay. So that's what it is. So he's going to enter that competition too. But yeah, I wish I could show it, but since it's a competition piece, I'm not showing it. I'll show it to you guys after he comes back with it. Because he did a technique that I haven't seen done before. I'm sure that he learned it from somebody. But to create cracked concrete, he actually created miniature rebar, and then he cast plaster over the top of the rebar as if it was concrete, and then he shattered it. So the plaster plates are still clinging to the rebar, and the whole thing can be twisted and moved. Pretty freaking cool. Every once in a while, I am reminded that my husband is a genius. Yeah, you can get the minis in box sets, Agent Marvel, so you could pick out the characters that you most want if you want. Like, at least some of the minis are in separate box sets. The one that David bought was. Alright, so I'm mixing a lot of pure white into the sand color to get a lighter sand color. There we go. You can see the difference in the two. But yeah, they have a competition. I think it's trophies and medals. I don't know. Are the prizes? Hopefully they get a good turnout. Alrighty. We will now proceed to do a more precise job. So I'm actually going to switch brushes. Cloud effects. Is that basing? David's not even using the base that came with the model. Or do you mean cloud effects on the air powered models? I haven't looked at them because it's not really my shtick. They're neat, but they're not they don't inspire me to paint. Oh, come on, really? All right, if this is not actually light enough, I'm gonna have to go back. Okay, that's better. I need a little more of it on my brush. You can see it there. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. David, Iron Man had a jet coming off of his foot, I think, and David just trashed it and did his own thing. So, just a little bit more highlight, but yeah. That's the kind of thing you have license for when you like actually start experimenting with sculpting and getting better at it. Is you can just, with simple things like that, you can just sculpt your own. So I'm just stippling. I'm actually going to keep that paint pretty thick though because I want it to show up. And just lighten up that front edge a bit. So that we have a highlight. And that really makes the shadow back there look dark next to the model. Well, this took longer than I thought it would do, but we also have been chatting. We'll start mouseling next time then. And I'll start with green work on him because I want to make his ears look like they're coming through the hat a little more convincingly. So we'll be sculpting on mouseling. And your stippling with this kind of thing doesn't have to be precise. You just want to get it more or less uniform so you get that effect. But yeah, we like to encourage miniature manufacturers to have competitions. So whenever we go to Adepticon, we try to enter at least one. I keep thinking about, bye hamster, bye. I keep thinking about entering Creature Casters competition. Competition's very, very, very difficult there. So it would take a big effort. More often these days, I'm attracted to just painting to enjoy it. Like I feel like I could get burned out very easily on painting again. So I should, when I enter into painting something at my desk in the evenings, I have to stop myself from defaulting to my go, 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 I have to get this done mode in my head. Because I have to make a conscious effort to actually switch off of that these days. And I need to just enjoy the process. And if I can do that, if I can refocus that, then I don't feel burned out or tired. It's very small. Both units are very small, Pendrake. You don't need to have a legal unit size anymore. They changed the Golden Demon rules, so it doesn't have to be a game legal anymore. So you can have like 3 or 4 models and be a unit. I think his is it's like five models for 40K though. Yeah, it's at least 5. I think both of his units are either 5 or 6. He's got and he made custom bases for the unit. That's why we went to the wood store the other day. His base, actually that base he bought at the wood store, the piece of wood that he bought to use for a base is really pretty. That's why we got the felt too, the adhesive felt to put on that. All right, yeah, and maybe one more, maybe just a little more. Every time I look at something and think it's good, I default to the miniatures advice, which is highlight it so you think it looks good and then put another highlight on it. I at least practice what I preach. Yeah, I think that's 5. I think his 40k unit is 5. It's 5 or 6, but yeah, 5. And 5 is a minimum unit in 40k, but like I said, they don't enforce like game legal anymore. It's not necessary. So we're gonna go with pure white, and we're gonna make one more sand highlight just to finish out the stream, and then we'll be done with fishy. And a little bit of my previous color. We made a very pale off-white now. Almost looks like bleached linen, and I probably could have used bleached linen, to be honest. Yes, yeah, I will be on. Yep. Yeah, as long as the internets are on. I'll be on, probably working on Anubis's, the back of his scythe. We'll do the shaded metallics, the true metallics. Because he's really close. Like, he's getting really close to done. Right, exactly, Doug. Like, you could do a unit of Skaven and just choose, like, the 5 best models, right? Alrighty, so just a little bit here and there for this now. Last highlight. Just little touches here and there. Yeah, I agree, Pendrake. It is hard to keep up with it. I don't know. I think about doing units for 40k, but what I've got right now is 2 single models. One for Age of Sigmar and one for 40k. Although I bought that Sisters of Battle box set, and I would like to do a unit of Sisters. So, because there are some really cool units in the Adeptus Sororitas these days. So we'll see. Again, it's a mindset thing with me, I think, these days. It really is. Like, I'm really feeling like I need to just enter into the painting just in my Zen zone. Like, I need to make a conscious decision to just, I'm going to sit down, and I'm not trying to finish anything. Like, I have to just tell myself, we're just going to paint this section, and we're just going to enjoy painting it. Like, I actually have to, like, consciously tell myself that at the start of a painting session these days. If I do that, I can avoid burnout and still enjoy my hobby. Otherwise, I feel like if I don't do that, if I make it yet another pressure situation, I will burn out on painting again. Like, I know I can do it. So, yeah, exactly, Doug. A lot of people do that, Doug. A lot of Underworld stuff shows up in Golden Demon. At least they did last year. The color scheme that I have always liked is the red armor and black cloth, Doug. That's the one that I've always enjoyed, because I think doing red armor is so much fun. So that's kind of what I'm, if I do my, when I paint my sisters, that's the special character is the one that I've got on my board right now, though. She has her canon color scheme. Although, you don't have to use a canon color scheme either, but maybe I'll do a little bit different to make her fit in with my color ideas. I see a lot of people complain after Golden Demon that some of the winners weren't creative enough in their color choices, right? They didn't want to see just another unit of X or this character painted as this character. But in reality, if you're going to sink that many hours into a Golden Demon entry, it's safer to use canon colors, and I think that's why people do it. Because the last thing you want is to hear that your piece didn't win because you didn't use a canon color scheme, which is not something they specify, but you always kind of have to wonder. Pieces have been turned down for demons for less in the past, so I feel like every year that the American demons go from now on, we'll get a better idea of what they're really looking for. So it'll be interesting. Kind of sad I'm not going this year because I do like to go and see the entries in person. Photographs never do them justice. Which is the thing to remember when you're looking at a GD entry, looking at the pictures, is that it actually looks better than that in person. Yeah, and some color schemes, do look better on certain. Well, and when you're doing Sisters of Battle, it's gonna be gold, red, white, black. Like those are your colors, right? And I feel like I like the iconic color scheme in Sisters. So, but yeah, so that's my goal, is to consciously make myself relax about painting, because once we're almost done with our Overwatch Battle Pass, and when we're done with that, I want to take a break and paint more. So the challenge will be to set out with the mindset of enjoyment from the get-go. I probably need to not think of them as competition entries. I probably need to just paint them. And sometimes you have to do mental tricks like that for yourself. Like if you feel like you're burning out in the hobby, or you run out of oomph really fast on miniatures, you just have to stop and just concentrate on the little piece that you're painting and just try to enjoy it. Find something to enjoy about it. Doug, that is definitely like, okay, no competition person likes to do this, but we do sometimes do this, and this includes past ReaperCons. If there are entries, but the quality of the entry is not high enough, the award will be withheld. This happens in Sophie's in Reaper, although seldom nowadays because we usually have enough high quality entries. But other companies have also done that. Will not award. Now juniors is different, right? I think that you always want to reward juniors. But in regular competition, if there are only 3 pieces entered in a category and you've got 3 trophies, but one of the pieces is really substandard and maybe was painted at the con, it's within your right not to award. Because then it's people trying to game the system. And you get that in every competition, by the way. It's like, oh, this is a competition and there's a prize. I'll just sit down and paint something in the 3 days I have at the con, or the 2 days, and I'll enter it, But yeah, all right, there we go. Well, let's get a look at Fishy. So yeah, much as it we never like to do it, like competition organizers never like to do it. But we also grit our teeth when people just try to game the system to get a prize with a quick paint job. So, yep. Alrighty, there's Fishy. Fishy's here. Yeah. Oh, and I've got to remember to sign Fishy, because this one will go to Jason at ReaperCon. Let me get my glasses on so I can actually do a signature. So yeah, next time we're gonna do Witch Hunter Mouseling. Speaking of models that are dying to be done in red and black. Although maybe dark blue. I was thinking dark blue, wasn't I? So his ears are kind of just sticking out of the top of the hat, so I want to do some resculpting there to make the cloth of the hat kind of be broken through. Oh no, messed up. I know, that's the thing, is I get to smell corned beef all day and I can't eat it. I have to leave it. No, not taller ears. You see how the fur just flat comes out of the cloth and it's just flat here? You need to have a ripped edge, I think, coming up from the cloth. I don't want the ears to be taller because they're very in scale the way they are now. But I do want to, gotta redo that. I like the only reason I'm painting this is it's the fun size mouseling Thormel. Sorry. I've already painted a regular mouseling on stream. And I don't want to do them too often. because in some ways they aren't a very good subject because they're so small and the details are so small. Okay. Okay, Quindy, thanks. Thanks for the heads up. Yeah, because I'm about to end. So actually we can end now. Why don't we end now? Why don't we do it now? I'll finish it later. But yes. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for showing up. Happy Friday. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I hope you all enjoy eating your tasty things. If you are cooking tasty things for the holiday, I will be on my stream tomorrow working on Shaded Metallics and Bone for Anubis. That'll be on twitch.tv/paintingbig at about 3:30 p.m. USA Central Time. Bye, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thanks, Doug. And I will see you tomorrow, or I will see you Monday. Have a great one, everybody. Oh, and remember, Monday, my book releases. Talk to you later.